All right, welcome to 20 Minutes with Mike. I'm so pleased that you're joining us. I know it's been a while since I've posted one of these. There's been a lot going on in our lives, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the course of this segment as well as other segments. But today, what I want to talk about is manifesting and the morning routine. So we only got 20 minutes, so let's get started. One of the groups that I belong to, which has been just absolutely fantastic, is called Lifebook. And I'm not going to go into a ton of that today. I'm going to talk about it later. But basically, what John and Missy, the founders of Lifebook, have encouraged people to do is you break your life up into 12 segments, emotional, financial, spiritual. You develop a life vision. And then you have essentially a goal. So I want to read to you what I wrote in my life book well over a year ago. And the question was, describe your dream home. So what I wrote was a home with space, tranquility, and calm. Space to be quiet, to read, ponder, and contribute. To look out at the mountains and hear the flowing water. Space for everything, all of our toys, and rooms for guests who can enjoy it with us. A music room to play and record. Space to be loud and have fun. Enough space to set up a band so people can join us. A location where there are like-minded people who ride and play music, talk and laugh, and enjoy nature. A separate TV room to enjoy shows but limit access. Separate workspaces for both Elisa and I that are calm, have lots of books, great internet, great views, but limited distractions. Now, I wrote that a year ago, well over a year ago, before we made a decision to move to Santa Fe. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons why there's been a delay in posting so often is because Elisa and I have just recently moved to Santa Fe. We found this fantastic home about 25 minutes from the plaza. We've got 10 acres. I'm looking out the window right now and I can see the mountains. I have my own workspace. Elisa has a beautiful office. We have a 900 square foot portico where we can play music and entertain and have guests. It's an absolutely fantastic space. Plus we have a ton of outdoor space. So why am I saying all this? Because we were able to manifest it because we knew what we wanted. The only thing that's not on here is flowing water. We don't have any active creeks. We have arroyos that run through the property, but they rarely have running water. But you know, the beauty is you can put together a water feature and have running water. So I am posting today from my office in Santa Fe. There's still some construction that's going on. We're putting in a series of bookcases, so it may not always be this view, but as you can see, I've got a little fireplace, and behind that curtain is a view into the portico, which because of the video would be a little bit distracting. So, you know, there's this old joke, and two guys are driving down the road, and the passenger says to the driver, "Hey, where are we going?" And the driver says, "I have no idea, but we're making great time." You know, I think that a lot of people in life, that's what's going on with them, is they're working hard and they're showing up, they're putting in the time, they're really putting in the effort, but they really don't know where they're going. And I think the reason is because it's hard. Setting up goals and figuring out what you really want takes work. One of the beauties of Lifebook is that you spend, if you're going to do that program, which I encourage people to do. I think it's a great program, but there's others as well. And there's great books, The Magic of Thinking Big, and Think and Grow Rich, and there's a whole variety of books. And in my book, Legalese, The Ultimate Guide on How to Survive a Law Practice, I have an entire reading list at the back of how to set goals. But the bottom line is that it takes work. You've got to really do some soul searching. You've got to make decisions. What do you really want? And, I encourage people to think of it from the perspective of, what do I want my days to be like? What do I want my morning to be like? What do I want my afternoons to be like? What do I want my evenings to be like? What kind of people do I want to surround myself with? What is the attitude of the community? If you were a big hunter, for example, and being out in nature and hunting was important to you, and that was something that you wanted to do on a regular basis, well, living in LA would be the wrong place, right? I'm not a big hunter, so that part didn't appeal to me, but I wanted to be in a place where I could ride my mountain bike and my road bike. I could ski. We have a ski resort that's a mile away, that I could, play music, and it's amazing where we are, off of Highway 14, so south of Santa Fe. Everybody I run into plays music. Everybody, there's open mics and there's all kinds of stuff. So it's great. And then because of what the house that we've got, we have space to bring people in and to play music, and we can crank it up, man, because we're on 10 acres. We're not going to bother anybody. So that's really, really fun. It took time to think, to really walk through, what is it that I wanted? Now, how did we get there? After you spend the time and effort to really decide, what are your goals? What is it that you want? What do you want? Some people say you should really decide, what do you want? What do you want your epitaph to be? What do you want on your tombstone? How do you want people to remember you? How do you, and that's a good way to do things, but people aren't going to say, well, Mike lived in a great house in Santa Fe. That's my day-to-day stuff. And so the first thing that I'm suggesting today is, it is never too late. It is never too late to decide what it is that you want to do. I mean, I wrote this when I was 60 years old. I am going to be 62 in May. It took a while to manifest this, but once we knew what we were looking for, then the choices began to narrow down. And back in November, Lisa and I did a road trip, and we traveled to a bunch of cities. We went to Taos, and we went to Prescott, and of course we came to Santa Fe, and we found what we were looking for because we knew what it would look like. We understood. I didn't know what this house would look like, but I had a vision of the kind of place I wanted to be. And when we saw it, I mean, literally, we weren't here more than an hour, and we put a bid on it because we knew that it was what we were looking for. It checked virtually every box for us. So, my message for today is kind of twofold. First, you got to put the time and effort in to decide what your goals are. I don't know about other people, but for me, that was tricky. That was challenging. That was not easy for me to, really write it down, and, because you got to write it down. I mean, that's kind of critical. Is, having it in your head is nice, but you really need to write it down. And I often say, you need to write it in a pen in blue ink. Now, I don't know why blue ink, but for some reason, blue ink makes a difference. But the handwriting, the actual handwriting, as opposed to typing it out. Now, my life book is typed out, but it actually, there's actually a book right? And it's broken down into various chapters, and I go through this on a regular basis, and I remind myself these are the things that I want, and then I can make changes and tweaks. Yeah, I thought that that's what I wanted, but yeah, now it's a little bit different. One of the things that we had to give up is in Sacramento. We lived in Gold River. Literally, the river was right, a 10-minute walk from our house, and I love the water and I love the river. We gave that up to be here. Life is a series of choices, and sometimes you have to make some compromises. But on the other hand, every other box got checked. And so, that's just one of those things that you got to decide what is important to you. What is the higher priority? All right. So now you've spent the time, writing these things down and really coming up with what is it that you want. And in Lifebook, you break it down. And I think that this was so helpful to me. Instead of this giant idea of what do I want my life to be, and it's broken down in basically 12 categories: health and fitness. So what do you want your health to be like? Because that makes a big difference. If you are not healthy, there's a lot of things that you cannot do. Here in Santa Fe, we're at 7,500 feet. If you've got respiratory problems, this may not be a great place for you to live. Fortunately, Elisa and I are in good health. And so that's important, but we work at it every day. This morning, I, got up on the bike and rode. And I will tell you, because I'm commuting back and forth from Santa Fe to Sacramento while I, finish up cases that need to be done and continue to work, coming up to altitude, man, I feel it. I always feel it. So health and fitness, my intellectual life, what do I want that to be like? My emotional life, some people are really struggle with their emotional situation. My character, what do I want my character to be like? My spiritual life, my love relationships, how important is that? Not only with my wife, but with my family, my parenting. I got 3 kids, and even though they're all adults, I'm still their parent. I'm still their father. And, I have obligations for that. How seriously do I take those? And how do I want to manifest that? My social life, my financial life, that's a big one, right? Because a lot of times that is what differentiates the ability to do things. My career, well, there's been massive changes in my career. I'm transitioning from actively practicing law to going into consulting. I still feel like I'm at the top of my game as far as the practice of law. I've done 2 jury trials this year. One got a straight out acquittal. Client, was facing a life term. He went home. The last one did not go as well, although some of the charges, there was a very strong not guilty hang, but he was convicted of some things. And, I'll just say that I don't think it certainly wasn't for lack of effort. And I don't think there was much I could have done to change that outcome, given the facts of the case. But, I still feel like I'm at the top of my game and I'm still practicing well. What I want to do is share that information with younger lawyers, not only from the perspective of practicing law, but also from the perspective of how to build a business, how to build a successful law practice so that you have the freedom to practice law. If you're worried about paying the rent, it's really hard to be focused on your cases. So my career, quality of life, big one, and then life vision. Those are the 12 categories for Lifebook. Highly recommend those. Now, so you have done the work of deciding what your goals are. And I would just say that, just because that's your goal today doesn't mean it'll be your goal tomorrow. I've had people say to me, well, last time we talked 10 years ago, you didn't want to do that. Well, yeah, that was 10 years ago. I mean, a lot of things change. When I first joined the Richard James Partners Club, 7, 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago at this point, I had just assumed I would practice law for the rest of my life, and one day I'd be carried out in a body bag. I didn't. I never had the vision of doing something else. But over the course of years, I was able to make decisions that allowed me to open the door. They say, go as far as you can, and then you'll see the next horizon. It's like climbing the mountain, and then you see, well, there's more mountains. And so you have the opportunity to move forward with those things. So again, don't get bogged down and this is your forever goal, and it's etched in stone and you can never change it. But you do need to know what direction you're going. Richard James used to always say, it's easier to steer a moving car. And that's true. If you're moving in a direction and you decide to make a change, you can do that. I, several years ago, wanted to start a consulting business. And after exploring it and crunching the numbers and looking at all that, I realized that it wasn't the right time. Now I can, dust off all of that information and really begin to do it. And it's going to manifest itself in a different way than I had originally anticipated. But ultimately, it'll still be a consulting process. Now, after you have put in the work to decide what it is you want to do, then you got to go and do the work. None of this, some people, I don't know, act like manifesting things means that you sit around, in the lotus position and it just happens. Well, that's certainly not my experience, but what my experience is that by doing work and working towards that goal, doors start to open. Now, maybe those doors would have opened anyway, but if I didn't see it, if I didn't understand it, I wouldn't have known to go through the door. There's an old joke, another joke that I always saw is kind of makes sense in this situation. Giant flood. Man's home is being flooded and he's sitting on the roof, and a guy comes by in a rowboat and he says, jump in. And the man says, oh, no. God will take care of me. And so the guy paddles off. The water continues to rise up. Pretty soon a helicopter comes by and they say, hey, they drop down a ladder and say, hey, climb up the ladder, get in the helicopter. And the man says, no, God's going to take care of me. Well, the water continues to rise and the man drowns. He goes up to the pearly gates and he says to God, God, I put my faith in you. Why didn't you save me? And God said, I sent a rowboat and I sent a helicopter. Now, my point is that opportunities arise and you got to take advantage of them. Things don't just happen. You're not likely to win the lottery to become a millionaire. If you want to become a millionaire, if you want to become independently wealthy, you've got to go out and do the work. But what I think you'll see is if you spend the time figuring out what it is that you truly want, you will see the opportunities begin to open up. My good friend and mentor, Blaine Elkers, had coined the term white table. What you think about, you bring about. What you think about, you bring about. If you put time and energy into something, you will begin to bring that about. What's another word for bringing it about? Manifesting. Now, I said we were going to talk about the morning routine, and we're almost out of time. All I would say about the morning routine is by setting up a morning routine where you are actually moving the ball forward on a goal or goals, and you do it repeatedly and consistently, you will begin to find that you're going to get there. That's how I learned. That's how I wrote books. That's how I'm learning Spanish. That's how I learned to play musical instruments. I make a goal. I write it down in my journal. This is what I want, and I'm going to put the time in every day. And I, check the box each day. Did I do this? And if I didn't do it, well, then I realized that I'm not going to move. I'm not going to move that way. All right, there's 20-minute buzzer. I always promise that we're not going to go over 20 minutes. I hope this information is helpful to people. You know, I've been on this planet for 6 decades at this point, and you know, I've had some real success. I've had a lot of failures, but I've had a lot of success. I think a lot of the success is a result of failures and then learning from them. But setting goals and then working towards those goals, you will find remarkably that you will be able to achieve them. So I hope everybody has a great day. And remember, be grateful for what you have, but be willing to work for what you want. All right, everybody, y'all take care. Bye.